Hello to my party people out there in Radio Land. Welcome to this week's transmission. I hope my sound is okay because the last time I checked it was not. And I think Mercury is still retrograde, but again, we're going to keep rolling through it. So this week's topic is, again, another continuation of the last 2 weeks, right? In terms of time. The topic is history is now. History is now. So museums are amazing, right? Everybody loves museums by very virtue of their name, right? Museums usually incorporate things from the past. There are such things as contemporary museums. There are such things as like kid museums, things like that. But they specify in their name. Otherwise, if it's just a museum, the standard is for it to be a showcase of things from the past. Okay, so like if you have a shoe museum, right? Mostly it's going to be old shoes. They may have some up-to-date stuff just, at the end of it, but right? It's mostly museum. It's old stuff, right? Because you don't need a museum to have new shoes. You can go to the store and get those, right? Things which have been preserved. So that's how museums operate. Now, museums are interesting in that the items in them are seen as priceless, right? Because they're irreplaceable. But there also is a certain type of novelty associated with them, right? By all of both the museum's curators as well as the visitors, right? As well as us. We go to museums to see old stuff, right? We are enthralled by these items because they are old. That's it. That's it. We'll come back to the little caveat for that, but for the most part, it's because the items are old. Now, when you really step back and think about it, the items in those museums are usually common objects, right? Everyday items that are now on display. So think about this. One day, your common items, like things that you use every day, like your comb, a toothbrush, cooking pan, things like that, could very well be on display, right? As a result of a major occurrence that happened around you, like for example, Pompeii, right? How things were preserved when the volcano erupted, or it could be as a result of something that you did, and that's how you have museums for specific people, right? This is where they sat when they wrote this or when they crafted this, and this is where they cooked, right? Things like that. Or it could be something on a local level, right? Good or bad. Something amazing happened here or something horrible happened here, right? We like to preserve these things. So just as your common objects will one day likely be on display, right? Even to show the difference in technology, the same goes for your actions and your behaviors. The same goes for your actions and behaviors. So, especially since we live in a digital age where everything is being recorded at all times, right? There are archives. So, the things that you do every single day are being archived, right? Are being recorded, are being carved into time so that they can be recalled and examined and on exhibition at some point in the future, right? Only the lens of time can and will determine whether or not your life or your time has been well spent, right? Or your daily activities were worthwhile. Everything is being preserved. So, going back to what I said earlier, many small things are illuminated by single big actions, right? So let's think about that. You go to a museum, and it is possible for you to go to a museum and see a spoon from the 1800s, a wooden spoon, something like that, a horseshoe, like a tablecloth, a fork, things like that, things that you're just like, this is everyday stuff. I kid you, I'm sure that the people who use those items when they were created, didn't think anything of them. They didn't think one day, you know what, I think this wooden spoon gonna be in a museum, so I'm gonna just be extra, careful with this, or I'm gonna, really appreciate the quality craftsmanship of this spoon. No, it was a tool. They were just using it as it was indicated at the moment, and then by virtue of time, that simple wooden spoon that had virtually no value at the time has immense value now, right? What gave it value? Time. The materials didn't appreciate by any means. If anything, they probably depreciated, especially if it's like wood, right? So it's not that. It's the fact that just because it's old, because it has endured the test of time, it is worthy of our admiration and our respect, right? Even though it's a small thing, right? It's an everyday item. Now, the only reason why such small, seemingly insignificant items are illuminated at all is because they tie into something greater, right? So why would a spoon be in a museum? Because it belonged to somebody, right? This was, this great leader's spoon. This was their breakfast spoon, right? Or this spoon was found underneath the rubble of a collapsed volcano, an erupted volcano, or a collapsed structure that was found, that was unearthed in, 1762. Things like that. Think about archaeological digs, right? All they doing is just digging through the dirt, and a lot of times going through people's trash, right? That's all they're doing, to see how people lived and things like that. I remember going to a museum a couple months ago, and they were like, "Yeah, this used to be their little outhouse area." I kid you not. And they're like, "Yeah, and in it we found some old-fashioned lipstick containers and things like that, and they are in a museum." So literally, we are digging through other people's toilets, the toilets of yesterday. Right? Digging through the toilets of yesterday, right? To find insignificant items, which are now significant due to the large and larger surrounding events of their presence, right? This lipstick container belonged to, Nina Simone. That's why it's a big deal. Or this lipstick container was created, 100 years ago. This is one of the first ones. Right? Or this lipstick container was used right before this great leader was assassinated. Or, it's always the larger event that gives context to the smaller items. Always, 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 right? And the glamour of these items always comes with time. It's the same with the struggles of legends. Right? We're always able to reflect back, and we want to portray them in movies. We want to write books about them. We want to romanticize and relive their struggles, which at the moment, as they were enduring them, were far from romantic, right? But because we're able to look back at those things as a result of these people having accomplished great deals, right? We want to look at their story and look at the grit, right? Because we already see the light. Now, to put that in perspective, it's 333. To put that in perspective, look around you at everyday people. Do you care about their forks and their spoons and their old shoes? No. Look at people who you consider lower than you, less than you, homeless, the downtrodden, the poor. Do you care about, how they spend their time, what they're wearing now? No, you don't, right? But if something amazing were to happen surrounding that person, then you would say, "Oh yeah, I remember I saw him. Yeah, he was eating, out of the gutter, right?" And then his apple core would have significance. So that's a point to ponder too, and how you treat people and how you regard people on the street today, because you don't know what they will be, what they are destined to be. Now, will your allocation, your spending of time, right? Because we spend time, because time is the highest form of currency. Will that amount to something tangible eventually? Or will it simply disappear into a sea of insignificant memories, right? Like, let me ask you, what did you eat for breakfast 3 weeks ago? You don't know. unless you eat the same thing every day. But you don't know. You have no idea, right? You don't know. What'd you eat for dinner, last week? Who knows? You don't know, right? Insignificant, right? Insignificant because there was no major occurrence happening surrounding that insignificant event to give context and to give significance to that event. That's why you have people say, when 9/11 happened, I can tell you exactly where I was and what I was doing. I know. I was in gym class, right? So, and I remember that. Now, had 9/11 not happened and my gym teacher not come in and say, like, the Twin Towers were just bombed, like, we got to stop doing this and look at TV, then it would have just been another insignificant day in gym class, right? It's the same thing with how you spend your time. It's the same thing with everyday items. It's the same thing with everyday people. And that's all I got to say. Thank you for listening. Have a great week. Love, live, light, laughter. Bye.